Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espy.
Well, first, my good evening. How is your Monday going so far? Welcome to your half-hour rundown of what's been happening news-wise, bringing you up to speed with what's been happening around the Isle of Man so far today. Coming up before 5:30, we've heard this afternoon that the Lieutenant Governor's term is going to be extended. We'll bring you more on that in a couple of moments. Also, as we wait for the announcements about Budget 2025 from the Treasury Minister in Tynwald tomorrow, we'll hear from some people about what they believe the priorities should be. We'll also be talking about that seawall in Douglas, how you encourage more people to travel over here by air, and how robot pets are helping dementia patients on the Isle of Man. We'll start, as ever, though, with a roundup of the main news headlines with Lewis
Fastamai. The island's Lieutenant Governor, Sir John Lorimer, is to stay in the role for almost a year longer than planned. His Excellency's term was due to come to an end in September of next year, just days before the next House of Keys general election. But his tenure has now been extended until August 2027, with government saying Sir John will be on hand to provide stability to the island during the election period. As the Treasury Minister prepares to unveil his annual budget tomorrow, debate continues around Alex Allinson's pension plans.
I really can't see this change happening anytime soon now.
That's former government press officer Alistair Ramsey, who says it would be pretty reckless to make changes to the triple lock so close to the next general election without seeking feedback from the public. Last week, Minister Allinson confirmed plans to replace the triple lock with the Manx pension guarantee had been put on hold until after a public consultation takes place. He'll be proposing a 4.1% increase to the Manx state pension tomorrow instead. A senior figure in the island's hospitality trade says government needs to look at the wider impact of raising the minimum wage. Government recently announced plans to increase the minimum wage to £12.25 from the 1st of April, but proposals to further increase the rate to £13.05 in October have been put on hold following feedback from businesses. And King William's College and the Buchan School will introduce phased fee increases from September, following a decision to absorb VAT costs this year. It follows the UK government's removal of VAT exemptions for private schools, which also applies to the Isle of Man. In the latest international news now, Russia's representative at the United Nations has accused the UK and EU of Russophobia and says they can't be part of any peace negotiations for Ukraine. An emergency meeting of European leaders is underway in Paris before US and Russian diplomats discuss ending the war in Saudi Arabia tomorrow. It's almost 3 years since the Kremlin invaded Ukraine. And infections led to what's been described as a complex clinical situation for the Pope. The 88-year-old's receiving further hospital treatment. And someone's come forward to claim Friday's £65.3 million Euro Millions jackpot. It had been won by a single UK ticket holder, though 7 millionaires have yet to claim their prize from the Valentine's Day draw. I wasn't one of them. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with the news at 6.
So disappointing, Lewis. You had us all on a knife edge there. Thank you very much indeed. Now the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. There is a yellow weather warning in place. It's from 6 p.m. tonight until midday tomorrow. That is for ice and snow. So just be careful if you're out and about on the roads tonight. Temperatures could drop to or just below freezing. So that is increasing the risk of ice and untreated surfaces. Again, mainly on higher ground above 1,000 feet. Rain is going to move in from around midnight, possibly turning to sleet or snow over the hills. And while any snow is expected to be minimal, it could still make icy conditions worse. So generally, weather-wise, cloudy and dry for the rest of today. A fresh to strong southeast wind. Temperatures only around 6 Celsius. It is so cold out there, isn't it? It feels really chilly. Rain is going to move in overnight, as we know. That will be wintry over the hills. Strong southeast winds. Most places seeing lows of 2 to 3 Celsius, but could be freezing or below over the hills, bringing that small chance of snow and ice. And then tomorrow, cloudy, some light rain or drizzle. That will clear up later in the day with some brighter spells. Staying windy, highs of 7 tomorrow, so positively balmy. And then Wednesday again, cloudy, occasional rain, temperatures reaching 8 Celsius. Sunset this evening was at 5:31, or it will be at 5:31. Sunrise tomorrow morning, 7:33.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
If you run a small business or just need more room in the back, Philshaw Vehicles has the perfect van or light commercial for all your needs and can sort out any finance. Based in the Tremode Estate, view philshawvehicles.im or call 49 51 49.
A great night's sleep got even better with Zed's Bedding Store. From quality Beldorm bed linen and mattress protectors, fleece and woven throws to luxury duvets from the fine bedding company. Zed's Bedding Ramsey, next to Isle of Man Bank.
SMS Trading. New and second-hand furniture from flat pack to fully built. See our range at 3 St Paul Square, Ramsey. All-island delivery and man-in-a-van service available. Call SMS Trading on 315151 or find SMS Trading on Facebook.
The exclusive Karcher store is open with thousands of products, accessories and parts in stock. For Karcher sales and service, Hersham Electrical, Shipyard Industrial Estate, Ramsey.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's just gone 6 minutes past 5. Well, as we've just heard in the headlines, the term of office for the Lieutenant Governor, Sir John Lorimer, has been extended. It'll now run through until September 2027, meaning he'll be here for the general election next year and a little beyond. Here's John Moss.
When Sir John and Lady Lorimer arrived on the island, they made it their business to find out as much as they could about their new home. Sir John completed the gruelling parish walk, and in stages, he and Lady Lorimer walked around the island on the way of the gull Radnafollion.
We loved it. I mean, we did it over 4.5 months, so I'm not sure we did it the fastest has ever been done. But it was a fantastic opportunity to get to understand the geography and the topography of the island. And we also met some great people on our walk.
The Governor has the ability to talk to anyone, no matter how old they are.
Do you all have a good weekend?
Yeah.
Fantastic. What did you do? Anyone do anything exciting?
No, went to the shop and brought Harry Potter stuff.
Did you? Are you into Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great, isn't he? I used to love reading the books.
A Manx Governor's term has been extended before in recent history. Sir John Paul at Manx Millennium, it's a mark of how much he's appreciated. He says he's delighted, finding the role both fulfilling and rewarding. Lady Lorimer and I love living on the island, he says, and we feel very much at home here. And home it will remain until the autumn of 2027. His term was due to end in September next year. Another reason is that his current term would end right in the middle of the next general election. His role is a significant one in Manx politics, and it will be important that he's here right through that important period.
John Moss reporting. Some lovely comments on our Facebook page about this news story, actually. A lot of positivity around Sir John Lorimer and his wife, which is always lovely. 8 minutes past 5. Well, as we know, tomorrow the Treasury Minister will set out government's spending plan for the year ahead. It will be the penultimate budget before the next general election. So what should Dr Alex Allenson's priorities be for the next 12 months? We'll have extensive coverage of this for you, brought to you by Crow Isle of Man, both online and on air. We've got our mini site which will go live as soon as the Treasury Minister is speaking in Tynwald tomorrow, which will break down what is in the budget this year for you. But Manx Radio's political correspondent Phil Gaughan has been talking to former MHK Chris Robertshaw and also Andy Saunders from the Licensed Victuallers Association.
The position I've taken for years and years now is that government needs reform. What we're seeing now is we're starting to see the current situation begin to crack, seriously crack. These tensions, these presentations by the Treasury Minister, the discussions in Tynwald, these are all due in the final analysis to the fact that we're not living within our means. Our structure of government is now outdated. We need to update it and improve it and get to a position where we can reinstall or reintroduce confidence on the part of the people. But coming to your specific point about housing, how on earth can young people or lower middle income people have a chance of either buying a house or paying for rental, if you like, in the private sector, when our government is so determined to tax them so highly through the back door of the NI fund? It really won't do, Phil. It seriously won't do.
Andy, are you prepared to give a mark out of 10 for progress? Do you give them any...
Well, my point of view, Phil, would be an island plan
what we had is an overview of where they wanted to get to. What we didn't have is a plan. If I was a businessman walking in with a plan that needed funding, all I'd have is the first paragraph of my plan. We haven't had anything afterwards that's how we're going to get and really achieve those the objectives we're heading for. And that's where I think it's always gone wrong, or certainly in the last couple of administrations, when I've become more involved in watching the Manx political situation, that it's not a plan, it's just an objective, blue sky thinking kind of paper.
That is Andy Saunders from the Licensed Victuallers Association, and also former MHK and Minister Chris Robertshaw talking to Phil on Perspective this week. You can listen back to that programme in full, incidentally, if you go to manxradio.com. Well, staying with the theme of the budget, and a political commentator and former government press officer says it would have been pretty reckless to make changes to the pension triple lock so close to the next election. As we know, Alex Allinson announced last week that plans to replace the triple lock with the Manx pension guarantee had been put on hold until after a public consultation takes place. Government does warn, though, that without change, the island's National Insurance Fund could run out by 2047. Despite that warning, though, Alistair Ramsey is not expecting to see any changes during this administration.
The thing that intrigues me about the Treasury in particular is the apparent lack of political nous in that department. They scored a fairly major own goal last year with the income tax rise, and then with the handling of the triple lock. I really can't see this change happening anytime soon now. The next election is next year, and to propose a change that appears to disadvantage something like 6,000 pensioners without a proper consultation, without the national conversation that was proposed, and without even getting the members properly on board, it's pretty reckless.
And to be fair, on government and Treasury, they have begun that national conversation. They did have a fairly significant consultation exercise. The Minister came on the programme and it described the changes that were being suggested. The solution, to be fair, hadn't been identified at that stage. Various options were given, but I guess what Tynwald is saying, what many Tynwald members are saying, is they haven't had the debate, and it undoubtedly would be a lively debate, to agree which of the options that had been suggested was the right one.
Yeah, they haven't had a debate to approve in principle. And to try and do that now, so close to the next election, I think it's quite ambitious, to put it mildly.
Ambitious might be the word. That's Alistair Ramsey, a former government press officer and also now a political commentator, talking to Phil there. So much more to come about the budget over the next few days, brought to you by Crow Isle of Man here on Manx Radio, culminating with an audience with the Treasury Minister on Friday. It's a live programme. It's out at Lukey's Bar, and we will be taking questions from you. If you can't be there in person, you'll be able to email your questions to studio@manxradio.com or text 166 177 once you've had some time to digest what is in the budget this year. Coming up to 14 minutes past 5, shall we talk about the seawall? Well, the construction of that new seawall in Douglas is now nearing the end stages. The 4-foot or 1.2 metre high flood defence is running from the War Memorial on Harris Promenade to the Empress Hotel. It's cost £900,000 and last month it received retrospective planning permission. But what is the latest with the project? Here's John again.
Scheduled to be finished before now, it is now coming up to completion. It's about 3'11", 4 foot high. It was going to be higher than that, but there was obviously some debate about whether it's too high so people couldn't see over the top. I'm talking now to the Infrastructure Minister, Dr. Michelle Haywood. Minister, the big question is, how soon before this is completed?
Work's due to finish by April. We're cracking on with it. It's been slightly delayed. We've had some bad weather that's hit work and stuff like that, and obviously we've had to make it safe for the men to work on the other side of the wall even when it's high water. So there have been some challenges working on this site. We might be in the middle of Douglas City, but it's actually quite an exposed site when it comes to working conditions.
It's just under 4 foot, 3'11". It was going to be higher. Is there a danger it's not high enough to do the job it's designed to do?
This wall is designed that we can extend the height if we need to, but we know that people were really uncomfortable with having a really high wall and they would have felt hemmed in. And it is a big change from the railings, we appreciate that. So actually this is good for now. As sea levels rise, we might have to consider extending it, but it's been designed so that that's possible.
So this is it. I mean, it's 500 metres of this.
Yeah.
Have you any plans to take it further along towards the sea terminal?
Not currently. This section of wall is designed to protect the highways assets along here, and so this is the bit where we get big disruption at the bottom of Broadway.
And the turning point for the trams as well, and things like that.
Yeah, when the weather's really, really high, and when the sea is breaking over the wall and it's bringing all the stones and cobbles over, that's when we get damage to the infrastructure up here. So this is definitely designed to protect this bit. Further along, of course, you've got the sunken gardens, and so they protect the highways infrastructure behind it.
Any thought of any illustrations or designs to cheer the thing up?
At the original design, and you can see there are some panels and set into the wall. They are designed to have artwork in there. We ran a competition to pick the designers, and so that's work that's still ongoing. We need to find funding now to get the artwork there, but absolutely there will be artwork going into this wall.
That is John Moss, who is talking to the DIY Minister, Dr Michelle Hayward, just down by the seawall here in Douglas. We know it's divided opinion. If you'd like to have a look at it yourself, you can go to manxradio.com, click on the story associated with this, and there is a short video on there. 16 and a half minutes past 5.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, nothing reported on the police pages, which is always good news. If you see anything you're able to let us know about, that'd be great. 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. So it's all the usual roadworks, the places that they're probably there this morning. All okay down at the airport and at the steam packet as well. The Manxman due into Douglas just before 6 and heading out again to Heysham at 7:15.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside.
OK, 17 minutes past 5. We'll stick with the idea of travel, actually, because what can we do to encourage more people to travel to and from the island by air? It's a question we're asking today after the Isle of Man Travel Trade Association raised concerns about the number of passengers coming here. And it's calling on government to stop charging Airport Passenger Duty, or APD, a levy charge per passenger on most aircraft flights, in a bid to reduce the cost of fares. Brian Kelly has been talking to Amy Griffiths.
When you look at the numbers of people travelling by air into the Isle of Man and out of the Isle of Man, we're still 200,000 passenger movements down on pre-COVID levels. So that's not a great position to be in. And it's interesting where the rest of the world are seeing record numbers of passengers travelling, and we're still seeing huge drops in pre-COVID levels. So that's a bit worrying from an island point of view, from the visitor economy, from revenues at the airport, and just air travel in general.
And why do you think, when the rest of the industry worldwide is growing, why do you think here it seems to be stagnant?
Well, there's the $22 million question, I think. I haven't got the answer for that. Bear in mind, with the announcements from EasyJet that they're reducing their capacity on the Liverpool route by 57%, which represents around 45,000 seats less than what we had in 24. So that's a very worrying situation for the Isle of Man.
If we're looking at increasing the island's population in the long term, travel links are going to be crucial to that, aren't they?
100%. And certainly we're very fearful that the continuous charging of the air passenger tax, which we see as something that could be scrapped, it's within the power of our government to charge or not charge that particular tax, but they continue to want to charge and receive the £3 million into the Treasury coffers. But how much is that damaging our visitor economy? How much is it damaging the economy in general, and what is the impact on the attraction of the Isle of Man to remain here from a business point of view and to relocate to the Isle of Man? We don't see it being very attractive at this moment in time, and if there are less flights and the flights are more expensive, then perhaps there are other more attractive jurisdictions.
That's Brian Kelly from the Isle of Man Travel Trade Association. 19 minutes past 5. Working with those looking to quit smoking and the legislative environment could be key factors in the Isle of Man's ambition to be smoke-free by 2030. Now, that is according to the island's Director of Public Health. Dr Matthew Tyra has been answering questions during a recent evidence session held by the Select Committee on Tobacco and Nicotine Products.
I think think that there is a really important element around what the legislative landscape looks like, because we know that the biggest drivers of reducing smoking rates haven't been things that happen on a small scale. They have been things that have happened at a significant national scale in countries around the world. So we know that when decisions have been taken around restricting where you can smoke, around changing the design or restricting the advertising of tobacco products, those are the things which makes the largest degree of population impact. There is a thing that we use to determine what's going to be the most effective whole population intervention called the Nuffield ladder, and it essentially says it starts at the bottom at do nothing and at the top is outright ban, and you kind of work through that. It starts less restrictively with things which are more socially acceptable towards things which require a larger bulk of public opinion to be in favour of in order to do. That would include things like public spaces bans, advertising bans, disincentivization or incentivization to stop. So there are lots of mechanisms that can be done, and we are starting, as the British Isles and Crown dependencies, to be in a position where we are starting to get towards the end of that ladder of interventions, because we have done all of the things that are at the less restrictive end. If we want to make smoking obsolete, and the Khan Review acknowledges that the pace of policy development across resets that goal of 2030 as being 2040 to eliminate it, with being down to around 5% smoking prevalence by 2030. But ultimately, it is the significant things that will make the final difference in being able to get to a point where we have very little or no smoking.
That's the island's Director of Public Health, Dr. Matthew Tyrer. Now, in this next interview, you may hear in the background some purring, meowing and barking. Now, they are the sounds being made by special animatronic cats and dogs. They're robot pets for dementia patients, and the Henry Bloom Noble Healthcare Trust has bought 20 of the sensory animals for the Manx charity Forget Me Not. Julie Amphlett is from that charity, and Jeanette Hogg is the island's first Admiral nurse. Lewis has been along to Hospice Isle of Man to meet them and find out more about how these robot pets work.
They're used for patients to reduce agitation and it's just had a little bit of fun as well. Because we fund the Admiral Nurse Service, there's 3 full-time nurses based here at Hospice that we fund the wages and training for. We actually approached Henry Bloom Noble Trust to ask them if they would help assist with the funding of this. So Henry Bloom Noble actually provided the money for the dementia pets for us.
So where did the idea first come about? When did you first become aware of the dementia pets?
I think I was at a dementia conference in the UK and somebody was exhibiting them and I think I must have been stood there for about half an hour just playing with them. And I just thought these are really good and we can use these back on the Isle of Man. So obviously asked Julie if we could get some. And then we've kind of got 10 cats and 10 dogs.
What's it like when you have these sessions? How did the patients respond?
That's pretty much how we're responding. You know, they'll sit with the cat on the knee, they'll sit and stroke the little Labrador puppy, and it just lights people up. You know, we just get a lot of laughter. It's rolling onto its tummy. There you go. You want tummy rub? There you go. We get a lot of laughter, we get a lot of interaction off the patients and the carers. So I suppose just to give you an example, I had one lady who lived at home on her own. She had paid care going in 4 times a day. And this lady was very non-verbal, you know, she didn't really say, right, you'd get the odd word out of her and, you know, how are you? Yeah, that was sort of thing. And I dropped one of the cats off because she used to have a cat, dropped one of the cats off and she just came to life. She started engaging, she was talking in whole sentences, she was talking to the cat. Even the paid carers were like, oh my goodness, we've never heard her speak so much. And it was lovely to see. It was just, she just came alive with the cat, you know, so it was really nice.
Isn't that gorgeous? That's Julie Amphlett from Forget Me Not, the charity, while Jeanette Hogg is the island's first Admiral nurse. And you can find out more about this story, and there's a lovely video of the dementia pets in action at manxradio.com. It's also on our Facebook page as well. 24 minutes past 5. Let's join Darren now for today's sports news. Good evening, Darren.
Good evening. Starting with motorsport. TT star Peter Hickman has announced he'll be returning to the Daytona 200 this March. Hickman will make his second appearance at the event this year with the Triumph factory-supported PHR Performance team. He made his debut at the 57-lap 200-mile race last year, but he was involved in an early incident which saw him plummet down the order. Kershaw Racing have announced a change to their 2025 lineup. The fastest ever TT passenger newcomer, Rhys Gibbons, has been added to the side after becoming available in the last few months. Gibbons will compete with Steve Kershaw and will race in the British F2 Championship, Scottish Championship and Isle of Man TT races, all aboard their LCR Honda powered F2. In football, Corinthians missed their chance to go level in the Canada Life Premier League at the weekend after their 4-3 loss to Union Mills. The Douglas side stay 3 points behind league leaders Peel, having now played 1 game more. In the combination Division 1, there was a special moment for Peel's Daniel Lace. The player made his 900th appearance for the club and received the Guard of Honour by both teams. Lace made his debut back in 1993 and has scored 172 goals for the club. On to rugby, Douglas picked up a crucial away win at Northwich as they won 16-12 in the Regional 2 Northwest. Vagabonds meanwhile suffered a heavy defeat to league leaders Garstang by over 90 points. In hockey, and the men and women's senior national sides were back in action in the England Hockey Championships. The women's B team demolished North Allerton first with an 8-1 win, while the men's B team put away Garstang first with a 6-0 win. And in cycling, Becky Story completed at the Setmana Cyclista de Valenciana with her team Picnic Post NL. The Manx rider finished 81st in the general classification, but she helped her team get a 7th place finish in the event.
Darren, thank you very much indeed. You've been taking lessons from Rob about how to pronounce hard words, haven't you? Thank you very much. Do remember, we've got our budget coverage tomorrow, as I mentioned, brought to you by Crow, Isle of Man. If you're at work and you can't listen live to what's going on in Tynwald, you'll be able to follow our blog. That'll be on our website, manxradio.com. We'll share that on our socials as well. And we'll have a full digest of our budget for 2025 on the mini site, which you'll be able to find on the website from tomorrow as well, and be discussed all throughout this week. We'll have the Treasury Minister joining us for half an hour on Thursday morning, so if there are any questions you'd like to put to him, then you'll be able to do so. And as I say, that special programme coming from Lukey's Bar on Friday. But that is all from Update this evening. Stay with Manx Radio over the next few hours, though. Plenty more to come. Up next, Phil Gaughan brings an extended agenda programme. He's talking to 2 people, hoping they'll be voted onto the Legislative Council when that election takes place on March the 4th. Tonight he's talking to sitting member Rob Mercer and businessman Peter Reid. Then at the slightly later time of 6:30, Chris Kinley brings you Greatest Hits. Time for Brass at 9 with Ian Cottier, and Dave Moore joins you from 10 p.m. with After Hours. Have a great evening. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.